Hey, hey, welcome. I am I think that maybe I just need to make a longer intro so I can get my shit together before the show starts. And then I'm sitting here, looking at my phone when you guys come on. Um yes, I am wearing a hat. I am freezing cold. We got like a foot of snow last night and I am not here for it. I do not like it. We do have a snowblower now, so that's good, but, I'm not a fan of the snow at all. And yes, I live in Ohio, and if I don't like it, I can leave, but that's not really an option now, is it? I am going to post a link to the show in the comments if anybody wants to join. My kids had a snow day today, so I thought it was a Saturday or Sunday or something. So thank you again to Sam, who is always on top of it and reminded me that today is Tuesday. Um, I don't know if your guys' kids had a snow day today. I feel like this was very North Ohio, very lake effect. You guys might not have had a snow day, but man, does that mess with like everything. I just it's like Christmas break, like you just forget what day it is. Um, but anyways, I am very thankful that you guys are here. I've been doing a lot of talking with my 19-year-old and just reflecting a lot lately. Um, it's really I don't know, things just feel really different and weird, and I'm having a hard time, like, getting into the Christmas spirit. I know it's early, but normally I'm, like, super gung ho by now. Um, I think it's just hard because people don't really seem to have, like, the attitudes that I remember around Christmas time, everyone was so helpful and kind to each other, and, I guess I just don't see that, so I don't feel very Christmassy. Hey, John. And then you got John writing books about scary ass dolls at Christmas time. I'm just kidding. That's amazing. That doesn't ruin my Christmas spirit at all. Um, but yeah, I think it's just like I saw a post in one of my local Facebook groups, like for a city around here, and someone was looking for food for their family. And, they said, we have tried the food banks, they haven't called us back. If anybody could drop some food off for me and my kids, I would really appreciate it. And it's just so many people with negative comments. It's so unnecessary. I don't know why people can't just like shut up and move on, like keep scrolling. That needs to be like a thing that people learn how to do. So it's just very discouraging. It's not I know I'm only 40. I know I'm not like generations old, I'm not 200 years old, but I feel like things have changed so much just in the world in general in my lifetime. I feel like it's such a drastic change that you would think that it would take like a few generations to get this far away from where we used to be, but it happened really quick. John said, yeah, struggling with anxiety today. So ironically, I saw you were live. I'm telling you, when I hit the go live button, I was like having heart palpitations. Like my anxiety has been off the charts lately. Um, I was talking to my sister about it, and I don't know what you guys believe, but there has been a lot of really weird things going on with the earth itself and like the electromagnetic field, which obviously affects your anxiety and stuff like that, but it also affects like electronics and stuff. So if you've been noticing any of that, um there's like real weird stuff going on in our atmosphere and things. So I'm trying to just breathe, because I don't know about you, but when I get anxiety, it feels like an elephant is sitting on my chest. So I'm just trying to, like, take really deep breaths, but my anxiety has been, like, weirdly bad lately, and for no reason. Um, you know, but that's what anxiety does, whatever the fuck it wants. You don't have to have a reason. John says from 2010 to now even is night and day. I agree. I agree. It's so weird because I constantly just feel like I don't belong here. I feel like everybody else changed and I didn't. And I'm still like hoping that the world is like just going through a weird phase and it's gonna, it'll grow out of it and we'll go back to normal. And sometimes I feel like it's not even everybody notices it. Um, and then it makes you feel crazy because people will be like, no, it's always been this way. No, it hasn't. It hasn't been this way. And maybe I just grew up with amazing people surrounding me and, my friends in high school and my 20s, my 30s. I feel like all of it was just, there was so much good in the world. There was bad, yes, obviously, but I feel like it's changed so much. John says, my anxiety makes it where I can't sit still and my brain will not focus on a singular task. Yeah, that's really rough too. And that one always seems to hit me when I have the most to do. Like if I'm hosting a party and I have to, do the dishes and cook a meal and, clean the bathroom and whatever. I feel like the longer my to do list, the more my anxiety kicks in. And then it's like, you're not going to do anything. You're just going to sit here and feel bad about all the things that you're not doing. And you're going to continue to make the list longer and longer of all the things that need to be done, but you're not going to be able to do any of them. It's so bad. I sometimes I will like physically write things out on a piece of paper and I will like do little things to try to trick my brain because your brain is very smart, but sometimes it's stupid and you could trick it. So if I am doing something where like I have a ton of things to do, I will write out a to-do list and I try to write them like in order of priority. Um, John says I always do a checklist, still doesn't work all the time, unfortunately. Yeah. So what I've done to trick my brain though is I I will write super simple things on there, including make a to-do list because the second that you get to cross something off the list or highlight it or whatever you do, um, as soon as you get to check something off, then your brain's like, cool, I got this. Let's tackle the rest of them. So I'll write like super simple things on there. Um, like take out the garbage. That takes like 2 seconds, but you get to cross something off your list. And so your brain's like, cool, we could do this. Um, I have to do checklists all the time too, because otherwise I forget everything. And I'm super thankful because my phone, which I'm sure all phones do it, whether it's like Siri or Google or whatever, um, I will just say, remind me at 8 a.m. to do this or whatever, because I forget everything. And if I'm laying in bed and I'm like, oh crap, I have to remember to type up that contract in the morning, I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to sleep because that's all I'm going to be thinking about is don't forget to do that. Don't forget to do that. And so my anxiety won't let me go to sleep because that's all I'll be thinking about. So once I set the reminder in my phone, then my brain considers it checked off. Like, okay, cool. We don't have to think about that right now. And then I can actually sleep. So use that feature on your phone. Or if you're like, I have to remember to text so and so tomorrow, I can actually schedule text messages on my phone And so I'll just schedule it for the next day at like 9 a.m. because I don't want to do it too early because I don't want to wake anybody up and have them crabby. But I will schedule a text message to go out the next day, and you just type up what you want to write, set the time that it's going to go out. And then my brain is like, okay, you're done. You can move on. So those are super helpful things for anybody who's forgetful or just has a lot on their brain. I was actually doing some training with a new coworker, and I told her about that, and she was like, "Oh my god, that is going to be so helpful." Um, More helpful than anything you'll learn in real estate school, that's for sure. With real life application, this is what helps in real life. So yeah, try that. But going back to, well, I got my list here. Um, I was talking to my 19-year-old, and we were just talking about how shitty everybody is towards each other. And this isn't something that we've like talked about before, but we realize that both of us like to just randomly compliment people. If he works at Sheets, so he's always seeing people, and I'm always all over the place, but it's little things. Like I went to Walmart the other day, and I'm in line, and I went in the morning right after I dropped the kids off at school. I'm not gonna lie, I was in my slippers. It was a last minute thing to run there, but sorry. The cashier was like, "Your hair is so long and so pretty." And like I hadn't brushed it that day. I was wearing my hat, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." And it totally made my day. And it like turned things around. I was grumpy that I had to spend $50 on some snacks for the kids' lunches. Um, but that's a whole nother rant. But I was just tired, I hadn't had coffee yet. I was crabby. I didn't want to be spending $50 on snacks. And it just made me feel so much better. And then I started my day being happy. And I think people underestimate how much one little tiny thing that you say to somebody can make a difference. And so I told him, I said, I'm going to talk about this on the show on Tuesday. And I told him that I was going to challenge you guys. So we actually are doing the same challenge. Um, we are going to compliment 5 random people a day. And it doesn't have to be anything fantastic, like, "Oh my gosh, love your sweater," or, "Hey, that's a cool hat." You know what I mean? Like something. You don't have to walk up to a stranger and be like, "Oh my gosh, you're a really good mom and I'm proud of everything that you're doing." You don't have to get in depth with it. Um, I just think that it's going to take a lot of these kind of challenges and these kind of attitudes to change the world back to where it needs to be, because we constantly have hatred shoved down our throats from every single angle. It's social media, it's the news, it's celebrities. Like there's so much hatred, and people are constantly telling us to hate each other, and this person is the devil for this reason, and this person is ruining our country and the world for this reason. And it's so much negativity. It's so much negativity. And if you're an empath, you know that it is emotionally draining to be surrounded by that all the time. And I think that if we just had, even 1/3 of the people in the world decided, you know what, I'm not going to be part of that anymore. I'm going to be a light bringer, and I'm going to bring happiness to people. And if everybody started just like walking around and complimenting each other, or when somebody posts that they need food, instead of being an asshole and talking about how maybe you should be more responsible with your money, have you tried getting a second job? None of that's necessary. None of that is necessary. I tell my kids all the time, If you're going to say something, it needs to be helpful and it needs to be kind. That's it. If it's not helpful or kind, keep your mouth shut. That's it. It's literally that simple. Maybe that's what happened to the world. We forgot the golden rule, treat others as you wish to be treated. That's it. Um, you know what? Obviously, that is it. Because if people were living by that rule, they would never, ever be this terrible to each other and this ugly to each other. So I think I just literally right now solved what the world's issue is. But if we even had a third of the people in the world just refusing to give into the hatred and all of that, then can you imagine if a third of the people that you came into contact with were just nice, we're just kind. That's it. And I'm not talking like spend all your money in your bank account to donate to people or whatever. Like, your words are free. Use them and use them only for good. And if a third of the people in the world did that, oh my God, I can't even imagine. It would be so beautiful. Um, and I think that it would start to show people that kindness is the norm. I think it's like weirdly more socially acceptable to be a keyboard warrior and to be just an asshole to other people than it is to be nice. Because, like, I don't know how it is for you guys, but if I am nice to somebody and I say nice things to them, like, oh, you look good today, or whatever, then it's like I'm flirting or I'm weird or I'm fake or all these other things, all these other negative things, because people don't even know how to take it anymore. People don't even know how to take it when somebody is nice. That's how far gone we are. Do you realize that? If someone is nice to you, they have ulterior motives, they're fake, you know what I mean? Um, it shouldn't be that way. It should just be the norm to be nice to somebody. Um, and especially like another thing I tell my kids all the time is say nice things or say nothing. Um, it's that simple. You don't have to be nice to people all the time. There's a lot of people that I don't want to be nice to, and I'm not going to because then that would be fake. But just don't say anything. Just don't say anything. The guy that was asking for food for his family, he didn't need all of those negative comments. Those people could have just said nothing and not tried to intentionally ruin someone's day and make them feel worse than they already do. It takes so much strength. And I understand that there are people who take advantage of people. There's people who take advantage of the system. There's people who never actually work for what they have, whatever. But for normal people who don't do that, it takes so much strength and like pushing your pride aside to reach out to complete strangers and ask for something and to admit, I can't provide food for my kids and I am asking you to help me. Do you know, do you know how soul crushing that is for somebody? Listen, that person is already feeling low. They are already beating themselves up. What is the point of belittling them and making them feel worse? I don't know. Does that help you sleep at night when you do that? I never ever understood that. I never understood the point of being ugly to somebody. If I'm sure I've done things to people that have hurt them. You know, if I ever knew that something I had said was like construed in a way that made somebody feel bad about themselves or whatever, I would be devastated. I would think about it all the time. I would constantly feel guilty for it. Like, I don't understand how people get like this weird high from destroying other people. Like, maybe somebody can explain it to me literally. I'm very I'm very understanding when it comes to a lot of things. I understand why people do things. I've learned a lot of psychology and why the human brain does what it does. Most things I can understand. I can understand why they do it. But just hurting someone just to hurt someone, I will never ever understand that. I don't understand why people do it. And a lot of times people blame it on like trauma. Oh, they had trauma. Okay, you know what? A lot of people have trauma. And if you do, then that's something that you need to work on. And it's not the man asking for help to feed his family who caused you that trauma. So why are you taking it out on him? And if your trauma involves somebody being emotionally abusive to you, why are you doing that to somebody else? You know more than anyone what that feels like. So why would you do that to someone else intentionally? I understand things happen. People take things wrong, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you do it intentionally. Um, it's just part of psychology that I really never will understand. And maybe it's a power thing. Maybe people feel like if I point out the fact that he can't feed his kids, then it means I'm better at feeding my kids. I don't know, maybe that's what it is. But I don't know, that's a real stretch to me. I feel like it can't be that simple. Um, Whatever says, thank you for being here this week, D. Thank you. He said, I'm very guilty of the hurt other people's situation. My mental health has taken a nosedive in the last couple of weeks. Very rough patch. That's, and yet you haven't messaged me. Weird. Let's change that. If there's anything I can do, let me know. I feel like I'm confused about what you're saying that you're guilty of the hurt other people situation. Um, I'm guessing that you mean somebody has hurt you because you're amazing and wonderful and super kind. So I don't think you're intentionally hurting people. Um, Sam, late to the party. There was a Facebook post. Sorry, Sam was asking what incident I'm referring to with the man asking for food. I don't know which city page it was on, but there was a guy asking for food and for him and his kids, and there was just people like saying, well, have you tried getting a second job? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Like, this man in his post admitted that he's like done everything he could think of, and he just wasn't able to get food for his family. And he was asking for people to drop off food. That was it. He wasn't asking for money, you know, whatever. Um, Somebody on there was saying that they were going to delete negative comments, which is good though. But it was so ugh. Sometimes things just like, I have a meter of my faith in humanity. And sometimes things like that will happen and it's just like, whew, like it just drops it. It just drops it. I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt, you know. Um I I try really hard to think that, everybody's good and that things are going to get better and someday everybody's going to just snap out of this bullshit that they're going through and we'll be good to each other again, and then stuff like that happens and I'm like, god, people are ugly. Oh. Oh, Williver says, as a hurt person, I'm guilty of hurting others or lashing out. I mean, I definitely lash out sometimes. Um, I don't I don't know, Williver. Maybe I just see a different side of you, but I can't see you like intentionally, telling somebody that they're a shitty father because they can't provide food for their kids, or you know what I mean? Like, the unwarranted hurting of people, just like literally making it your goal to go out. It's like people sit down at their computer and they're like, I'm going to fuck with 10 people today. I'm going to make their lives miserable. And they like sit down and just people they've never met, people who have never done anything to them. They just, that's it. I'm just going to type something so terrible to a stranger because that's how I make my day better. Sam says people just like to hear themselves talk without bringing anything to the table. Weird energy. It is a weird energy. I don't understand it. I I could see people who like to hear themselves talk. Obviously, I have a fucking podcast by myself. So I'm not saying that's weird, but like I don't know, just God or the universe or whatever gave us a voice like to change the world. And I don't think that, changing the world is, I don't think that's what they meant. Wilbur says, only now am I realizing I have a lot more trauma and anxiety, and no, nothing like that. Yeah, I didn't think so. I think we were talking about different things. But yeah, it's really hard. And I think that's why a lot of people don't ever try to fix themselves, right? Because people always want to talk about growth and their journey for self-healing and all this other stuff. But good Lord, is that ugly? Because when you get down to the root of why you do things, you are not going to be happy about it. And you are going to have to face some ugly things that happen to you and ugly things that you've done that you're not proud of. And, people aren't ready to do that. It's not a pretty process. You see these things about like, oh, I'm on a growth journey and all this other stuff. And it's all like sunshine and rainbows. It's not. It's like crying in the shower to the point where you have snot dripping down your face. Like when you start to analyze why you do things or why you feel the way that you feel, it's not pretty, but it can be and it will be. But it's a bumpy road to get there. And I think that's why a lot of people just are comfortable with the way that they are, even though they know that they could be better and they know that they could be, stronger mentally. But it's just too hard to face those things and to think about, the things that you went through. And people would rather like repress them and use them as an excuse for bad behavior rather than facing them, really, really looking at them and how those things changed you and then letting it go. Especially when people have trauma, they like to use it as an excuse for everything. We've been there. Everybody knows somebody like this in their lives. Somebody who will constantly bring up their traumas and, oh, sorry, I have PTSD or whatever. And I'm not talking about people who actually have PTSD. I understand that's a real thing, but people who want to just continue to make that their entire personality. Me personally, if I am going to talk, like, let my trauma be part of, not be part of, but be who I am, then it's going to be that I overcame that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the part I'd like to be associated with. First of all, if there's a person who caused me trauma, I do not want to give that person control of my emotions and my entire personality for the rest of my life. I don't want to do it. But God, it is so ugly, isn't it, Wooly? Gosh, when you really start to examine yourself and who you are and why you do the things that you do, sometimes it's not pretty. but it's good on the other side. It's good once you get to the other side. Sam says, good job acknowledging it, David. It means you can have a new perspective moving forward. When you know you get triggered and can become hurtful, you can do better. That's true too. And the fact that you recognize it is huge, because with everything that I struggle with, anxiety, depression, all of that, recognizing that I'm doing it is step one. Because if you don't know that you're doing it, or if you can't, this is actually one of the things that I talked about, or that I wrote up, that I have on my list to talk about. People don't critical think about anything anymore. Everything's so emotion driven, right? So when you start to recognize that you're doing something, this person said this to me, it's triggering something in my brain that's going to make me lash out on them. If you don't critical think about it, why am I doing this? What is going, what's going to be the result? Why is that the result? Why do I lash out every time somebody says something about, whatever, insert trauma response here. If you don't recognize it and critical think about it, take a step back and look at it as if you're viewing someone else having that behavior, and think about it critically. Why would that person do that? Don't think about yourself doing it, because then that's too much emotion brought into it. You have to reason with your brain and try to think critically and try to view it from the outside and see exactly what it is, so that you can recognize it and stop it before the lashing out starts. Not always easy. And you're going to slip up sometimes, but recognizing it and maybe going back to the person and being like, hey, sorry about that. I didn't mean to lash out at you. Yes, words can never be taken back, but at least admitting that you were wrong and lash out and explaining why might, help things. Sam says 100% Denise, and having those hard conversations, especially with loved ones, to break the cycle. It's so hard to grow and thrive and not revert back to past behaviors, but it's so incredibly worth it. It really is worth it. Yeah, I had a whole thing, a whole slap in the face on Thanksgiving about breaking cycles. Well, he says the white gloves are very dirty by the end. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, getting together with family and doing things, and just, it was a whole thing about breaking cycles. It really was an eye-opener that okay, I'm growing so much. I'm growing so much. And sometimes that means that you grow out of a space. And whether that's your family or your old friends group or whatever, sometimes that happens. And I'm not saying that I'm never going to speak to any of my families again. It was a real eye opener, because I definitely have outgrown that space, and that's okay. And it doesn't mean that I don't love them. But I'm very happy with where we ended up. And, a lot of families, you look at the black sheep of the family and you're like, wow, why is that person all by themselves? Why is that person, so different from everyone? Why doesn't that person want to spend all of their time with their family or whatever? And a lot of times you'll learn that that person is the person who's grown and evolved, and, maybe they're not just weird and everybody hates them. Maybe it's just that they focus their time where their time should be focused, and that's okay. And cycle breakers are amazing and incredibly strong, especially because they usually take a lot of shit from the people who are still in the cycles. And those cycles can be anything. You can literally relate it to anything. It could be friends groups or families, but it could also be like political parties or religious organizations or whatever. Not everybody wants to grow, and that's fine. You don't have to stay there with them though. You can break cycles that don't work for you, and that's a really hard pill to swallow. Everybody's got this mentality. Like one of the phrases I hate the most is because that's the way it's always been done. Like I feel like in every situation that's a bad idea. You know, um I had a boss that used to say it all the time. Oh my gosh, I wanted to slap him every time he said it because here I am typing mortgages literally on a typewriter, because that's the way it was always done. Well, like there's computer programs for that now. And I was using like DOS based programs to type up certain mortgage documents because that's the way it was always done. And I'm like, we don't have to do it that way anymore. There's better, easier ways that are 100 times less frustrating than what we were doing. Um, so it doesn't always, cycle breaking could be anywhere. But I do, oh my God, I hate that phrase so much because that's the way it's always been done. Who gives a shit? There's freaking cavemen used to walk whenever they wanted to go somewhere. And that's the way it's always been done. So when we invent cars and airplanes and boats, we shouldn't take those because walking is the way it's always been done. Um, it's a terrible phrase. Don't ever think that. Like, get that mindset out of your mind. There's so many other things. Like, things are constantly changing. Sam says it does happen and that's okay, but setting boundaries and having clear expectations and communication relieves so much guesswork and anxiety on this overthinker's brain. Yeah. Overthinker's going to overthink. I feel like even sometimes when I have clear expectations and communication, I still will overthink it. Because that's what we do. But it does. I'm going to be honest, a lot of times I don't set boundaries with people, not like aloud. I set them in my head. Like I'm not going to be part of these things. And so if I get invited to do those things, or, I know that those things are going to be happening, I will remove myself from the situation. But it's not like I set people down and I'm like, listen, I'm not going to be part of this anymore. I just set the boundaries for myself. That's probably not right. Probably if you want to communicate, then saying them aloud would be good. But not everybody wants to change, and not everybody wants to hear that their behavior is toxic to you, and so you're setting boundaries. You know what I mean? Um, Not everybody's going to take that well. Actually, most people won't take that well. So I do set boundaries, and I might say them out loud to my husband, like, listen, I'm not ever going over there again if we're going to do this, or whatever. Um, but I do set boundaries to myself. And that's fine. You know, and like I will teach my children those boundaries. Um oh my God. Sam just said the worst things that an overthinker can hear. She said, Denise, we need to talk. That's terrible. That is seriously, that's another phrase that I wish we could eliminate. Um, Unless it's followed like immediately with what you want to talk about. don't say it. Don't say like, we need to talk. What are you doing Thursday at noon? You want to go get lunch? No, we're gonna talk now, because now my brain's already like thought about like, oh, she's running away with my husband. They're gonna take my children. You know what I mean? Every possible bad situation. Overthinkers are really good at it. And you know what? sometimes, like, people ask me why I'm good at real estate. They're like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Honestly, it's the ADHD." Because, um, being an overthinker is such a big part of my job because I have to sit here and, like, every possible situation that could come up, I have to be, like, ready for it and have an answer for it before it comes up. Because everybody thinks it's like, "Oh, you signed papers and then you got your keys." No, there's so much in between there, and there's so many things that go wrong. And, like, other people, if a situation comes up, then it's like, "Oh my god, it's the end of the world." Whereas, like, something happens on one of my deals and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I've already planned this out in my head. Here's what we need to do." And I, like, have the solution before anybody even knows about the problem because my overthinking ass already thought about that problem and 9,872 other ones that could have come up. Um, so sometimes it does help in, you know, I don't your job, but I admit okay, so I always hated here's me cycle breaking. I always hated when I was little and I would ask why, and, my mom would say, "Because I'm your mom and I said so." Oh, right? It drives you crazy. And so when I had my kids, I mentally set a boundary, said, "I'm not gonna do that." I'm going to explain to my kids because, first of all, I don't want them to think that they just have to blindly listen to anyone. They're allowed to do critical thinking on their own and make decisions. So, which is a lot for a toddler, right? Like, nobody really puts that in a toddler's lap. Like, hey, let's practice critical thinking. But anytime they were doing something and I would tell them to stop, they would say, "Why?" And I would tell them what my overthinking ass thought of. And I would say, like, "Because you're gonna fall down and hit your head on that corner there." And now my kids are really good at they're really good at seeing what could potentially happen, which is great. But I hope that I didn't just, like, raise little balls of anxiety. I think I was the worst with it with Ryan, though, my oldest. Um, because I was like, new mom is like super mom. I got to do everything right. And um, he actually, he's so good. He's such a good kid. He's my kid, so I'm allowed to say that. Um, he is a manager at Sheets now, and he's so good at critical thinking and problem solving. And I hope that that's the result for all three of them and not just that I gave them anxiety for the rest of their lives. But I always explain things to them because I don't want them to think, you know, I don't want them to think that they have to just listen to people for no reason. You know, critical thinking is like gone these days. Nobody thinks anymore. That sounds terrible, but seriously, nobody thinks for themselves anymore. People just like spout something off, and I'm like, why do you feel that way? And they literally don't even know. They don't even know. Like, they don't even know how the idea got into their head. They're just like, the news told me to, or somebody on Instagram said that I should be angry about this. And I'm like, have you thought about it? Like using your brain? No? Okay. Um, And that's not even like a political thing, like against either party. It's like literally the whole world. Nobody thinks for themselves anymore. They just like have all these big emotions and so much hatred. And I don't want my kids to be like that. I want them to be like, if somebody tells them, to hate somebody, I want them to hate that person because of something that that person did to them, or for a reason that they came up with. Um, I've never played into that, even when I was younger, before back when I was just wild and crazy. Um, I never did the whole like oh, she's mad at my best friend. Oh, I hate her now then. I don't if people don't do something to me, then I'm not going to just hate them because somebody told me to. I don't know. And I don't want my kids to be like that. Um it it just makes things really hard. Why do I have to hate somebody? I don't have a reason to hate that person. They didn't do anything to me. And plus hate is such a strong word to me. I don't like when people say that they hate somebody. We were kind of raised like to say you hate somebody means that like you wish they were dead or that they didn't exist. And so I try not to say that word about people. I mean, I hate a lot of things. I do say I hate a lot of things, but anyways, I was never about that life. I'm not going to just hate somebody because somebody told me to. Honestly, a lot of times I don't even hate people when they do something to me. So I'm certainly not going to do it because they got in a fight with somebody that I know. Um, what else? What else? What else? Oh, this weekend, I'm going to tell you, I love my job for a million reasons, but one of them is because I work for a company that is so focused on helping other people. And I love that. And I wanted to tell you guys about another challenge that you can do. I call them challenges, so maybe you guys will get into it. It's really just a kindly worded suggestion. But we are going to get together. All the girls at the office came up with this amazing idea to make Christmas cards, like hand make Christmas cards for um, the local nursing home. And I'm really hoping, which Sam, I never uh, clarified with you, but hopefully we're hand delivering these because people in nursing homes, my gosh, guys, go visit people in nursing homes sometimes. Just go do something there. Bring something, something small. I don't know. But they never get visitors. It's so sad. It's such a terrible nursing homes are terrible. That's another reason our system's broken. That's a whole nother show though. Um, but find someone to make cards for, hand make cards and give them to, the VA hospitals or nursing homes or whatever. Um, just do something for a stranger. It's one thing to do nice things for people that you know, but it's so different to do it for a stranger. And I'm going to be totally honest, it feels so good for me. I understand that I'm like helping somebody, but it helps me so much anytime I get to do something like that. Even if it's little things like paying for somebody in the drive-through. I love that so much. And I don't know. I understand that not everybody can like buy things. If you want to make cards, let me know because I have a ton of supplies that you can have. Um, if you have an idea for something that you want to do and you want help like putting it together, I'll totally help you. I love planning shit. So just try to do something for a stranger. And Sam, I talked at the beginning of the show. I don't know why I'm specifically addressing you because I know you'll like this. But Ryan and I were talking about how we both like just randomly give strangers compliments all the time, like, oh, I love your hat, that's a really cool sweater, those shoes are awesome, whatever. And so we decided that we're going to challenge people to compliment random strangers 5 times a day. It's honestly really simple to do. Maybe sometimes people just like go whatever to work and home and don't see a lot of strangers, but then fine. Compliment people on the internet. Everybody wants to be a jerk to people on the internet. Compliment people on the internet. If somebody posts something on a Facebook page, look at their profile picture and be like, oh my God, I love that sweater you're wearing in your profile picture. Done. Um, you don't have to leave the house to be nice to people. We just really need to we really need to be light bringers and just bring some light into this world because I'm getting really sick of it. It's very frustrating, and my faith in humanity is like dwindling every single day. And I know that I am not alone. I know that I'm not because people talk to me about it all the time. It's everybody's stuck in survival mode, and the only time that they're interacting with other people is, in bad situations, and bad situations means grocery shopping now. um so situations where people are just sad or depressed or scared about how they're going to pay for things or whatever, everybody's like in survival mode. Nobody's nice to each other. Nobody's nice to each other. um so I think it's super important to just go out there and just be nice to people. Oh my gosh, it's so easy. Literally cost you nothing. And if you're making 5 people's day every single day, you're practically a superhero. Just saying. Um, so I think we need to do that. And I think maybe teach kids to do it too. Kids are fucking ruthless. Ruthless. They're terrible. I think it needs to be cool to be kind. Can we make that a trend? Um, I know we have like these what are they called? Influencers who do things nice for people. Like Mr. Beast is always doing like crazy nice things for people. But I think that it needs to be like mainstream cool to be nice to people or just to treat them like human beings. Like, hey, could we bring back dignity? That'd be cool. Um, I just think that it seems so hopeless, and so people don't try. And I'm people. I don't try very often because it does seem hopeless. But as stupid as it sounds, the girl at Walmart being like, "Oh my god, your hair's so long and so pretty." That was it. Like, I was like, "Oh my god, that girl just changed so much for me." She changed my whole attitude for something stupid. I was well aware that my hair looked like shit. I didn't brush it. I didn't I was wearing a hat. Like, I know that it didn't look great. It's not like I just got back from the salon and had it done or anything. But still, it was just the fact that she said it like totally changed everything for me. And I think that, everybody thinks that it's pointless. It's like our to-do list, right? It's pointless to even start because there's so much on the list, right? There's so much about the world that needs to change. So why even start? Why even do one little task? Why even do one little compliment to a stranger? Because there's so much that needs to change and we're not going to be able to do it all. So don't even start. But I think that's a bad attitude. I think we need to stop thinking that way. I think that if we just start a little bit at a time, and then, those 5 people, maybe the next day they'll compliment somebody. And then so that's 10 people the next day, and every day we'll just keep showing people that just being nice can literally change the world. If somehow we got the world so focused on being assholes and hating each other, then I feel like there's got to be a way that we can get it back to the way it used to be. Um, so I think we should just all work on that. And I don't know, maybe tell your kids to do that. Tell your kids to tell one person at school something nice, even one. It doesn't have to be 5. Tell them to compliment one person. And then when you're sitting down for dinner, everybody can talk about what they said to other people. It was cute because when Reggie Dabbs, I don't know if you guys have ever seen him, but he's like an inspirational speaker, and he goes and talks to kids and in schools. And he was talking about how you should do random acts of kindness to people every day. And Easton came home and he was so proud of himself. He's like, "Mom, I did 26 today." He was so proud of himself, but that's just who he is as a person. He just walks around doing random acts of kindness for people. That's just who he is. But he was like 26. Like, good job, bud. Um, and he knows that even like if somebody is carrying all their books and their pencil falls, like picking it up so they don't have to bend down with that stack of books and risk dropping it, that's an act of kindness. Is it huge? Did he solve world hunger? No, but he certainly helped that one person. So he does stuff like that all the time. And I hope he never changes. Oh my gosh. I hope he keeps that big heart of his and nobody better ever break it, because I will be devastated. But yeah, so that's the challenge. It's just to do good things for people and to compliment people. I never ever want to ask people to do stuff for people because I understand, gosh, talking to people lately, um, I understand people are struggling, like so hard. People are struggling. They're forced to choose between paying the electric bill and buying groceries. And so I never ever would ask for people to like spend money if you don't have it, I'm not saying that at all. But there's free ways to do things. And you know, I feel like it would help you so much. It helps so much. Gosh, just to do something nice for somebody and not to expect anything in return. Because sorry, I'm going to get off here soon, but when you're doing something nice for somebody, here's a public service announcement. When you're doing something nice to somebody and you're keeping a tally in your head so that you can get paid back by that person in one form or another, that's doing business. That's not doing kindness. Please don't forget that. There are people in my life that I don't care how much I need it. I don't care what is happening in my life. I will never ask that person for help. There's a whole list of people because I am not doing business with people. If I ask for help, just know it has taken everything. It has taken everything from my soul to be able to say the words, I need help. Not good at it. I hate it more than anything. And so if I do that and you respond with a business transaction or belittling me in any way, that's it. I'm not going to ask you ever again. And that is a hill I will die on. I will not do that. Because that is not being kind. That is selfish. If you are doing something for somebody so that you could say, remember that time I did this for you, that's selfish. That is the opposite of kindness. You are doing it for personal gain. You are doing it for personal attention, and you are doing it for control of that person. That's not helping. Don't do that, kids. I've had too much run-ins with that lately too, and it's heartbreaking, especially because the person that you're helping needed your help and is very vulnerable, and you're taking advantage of that. And I don't like it. So please don't do that. But anyways, yeah, I am going to get off of here. It's been an hour. Oh my gosh, I talked so much. And my battery's dying. So that was good timing. But I appreciate you guys so much for joining me and for just everything you do. I love you. And I will see you next week. I'm tossing around the idea of having my kids on the show. They brought it up. They said that they wanted to be special guests, but I would definitely need to talk to them first and, figure out an itinerary and how this is going to go because it could be bad. But I don't know. I'll talk to them more about it. They literally just brought it up at dinner time tonight. So we have some talking to do about that. And then I do want to do in December another guys show and have some of the guys on So I'll get started planning that. Got a lot of planning to do, but we'll make it happen. But I will talk to you guys next week. And as always, listen, these lists that I come up with, these are not all my ideas. I constantly have people messaging me things that they want to talk about. Something happened to them and they want people's opinions on it or whatever. So I will write it down. I keep a piece of paper going all week. And if you have something that you want to talk about, but you don't want to put it in the comments, then message it to me and we'll get it talked about. I don't ever say so-and-so wants to talk about this. I don't ever say that because it's not my story to tell. If you wanted to say it, you would have said it in the comments. So if you have something you want to talk about, message the show page or my personal page, whatever, and we'll get it talked about. Yeah. And if you guys have a project that you want to work on to, make cards for somebody or make a gift for somebody or whatever, let me know. Again, ADHD, I start projects all the time, buy all the supplies I need to make them, and then, move on to the next thing. So I have tons of stuff if you guys need it. just let me know what you're working on and I'll help you out. But I will talk to you guys next week. Thank you again so much for joining me. And please have a good week. Please spread kindness and 5 people a day. That's what you guys are going to do. Compliment 5 random strangers a day and see how much it changes your life. All right. Love you guys. Bye.